Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Rob Wallace, and we've got a huge show ahead of us today. We've got the Fed, Jerome Powell. He is being under criminal charges. We got Trump versus the Federal Reserve. We've got Elon and the X algo versus Bitcoin Twitter. Everybody's going to war. Everybody's trying to get their word out, and we need to dive in and investigate what is actually going on. So first, let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin Twitter, a place that has been so fundamental for the growth of this asset for our community, and now we're under attack. Let's dive right in. All right, so on January 10th, 2009, a single tweet changed the internet. Hal Finney posted the words "running Bitcoin," and Bitcoin Twitter was born. 17 years later, that same social graph has helped onboard millions of people into Bitcoin. It has watched an asset go from zero to over $2 trillion. It has helped shape the political and cultural currents to put a sitting US president back in office in 2024. Over the years, Bitcoin Twitter has become a living network of education, memes, debate, and coordination. Now, for the first time since the authoritarian censorship of the COVID era, it feels under threat. For months, the Bitcoin community felt the walls closing in. Engagement was crashing and reach was vanishing. The list of accounts you spent years curating to get the best Bitcoin content simply stopped appearing in your feed. If you engage with the For You brain rot, your timeline fills with slop. If you post too often, your reach evaporates. If you stay inside your niche, the very communities that made this platform valuable, you slowly disappear from your own social graph. On the anniversary of Hal's famous tweet, the head of product at X, Nikita Beer, finally gave us the why. He claimed the community is, quote, dying from suicide. The product team at X is optimizing for unregretted user minutes by shoving generic political rage bait in front of everyone while shadow banning the niche communities that built this platform. They have replaced the organic simcluster, where 90% of your feed came from people you actually chose to follow, with the homogeneous soup of the lowest common denominator. Nikita informed us that by replying GM or engaging too much in threads, users are hitting an invisible reach meter that exhausts their impressions for the day. In other words, if you interact with your community, the algorithm will hide your posts. That explanation detonated the timeline. The backlash to Nikita's post was so violent that the tweets he posted were deleted within hours. And the fallout even forced Elon Musk's hand. Over the weekend, Elon announced that the entire X algorithm, including all code used to determine organic and advertising recommendations, will be open sourced in 7 days. This will be repeated every 4 weeks with comprehensive developer notes. They are even bending over backwards to appease the crypto community. Nikita announced smart cashtags that allow users to track real-time Bitcoin and crypto prices directly from the timeline. They went so far as to hint at in-app crypto trading. Bitcoiners were some of the first to build a decentralized alternative like Nostr to escape the algorithm and its problems. But X remains the world's town square. It is where Bitcoiners can directly tell central bankers to have fun staying poor. The algo may try to optimize us out of the front page, but Bitcoiners are used to having to fight to be heard. 17 years later, we are still posting every day. We are still running Bitcoin. All right, everybody, welcome. I am very grateful today to be joined by none other than the man himself, Giacomo Zucco. Giacomo, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I hope the same about you and everybody listening and watching.
Cheers. Yes. So you're calling in live from Lugano, the headquarters of Plan B. So tell us about the Plan B school and everything you got going over there.
Yeah, this is the main street of Lugano. Sometimes you can also see the major strolling with the dog where you are streaming. And I have also, not cool as yours, but it's similar. And this is a headquarter of the many Plan B activity, including the Plan B summer school and the Plan B program. The next one is starting on February 3rd with the first free open introductory lecture that I will stream from Bitcoin Beach in Zonte. And then many lectures will be streamed from all over the world, some from here, but we had lectures from Thailand, we had lectures from Serbia, from the US, from all over the world, even from Africa. And after this Plan B program that will be split in two curricula, one will be the business curriculum for people that want to enter the Bitcoin ecosystem as biz developers or marketers or designers or UX experts or lawyers, regulator experts, compliance, and the other curriculum will be the curriculum for software developers, basically, and the tech curriculum. After 3 months of intensive online education, we will select the best 21 students from each curriculum. So we will have 42 students, which is the number which is the answer to the big questions of everything. And we will bring them to the summer school of Lugano, which will happen in June. So if you want to check it out, actually there is a code just for you. I heard from my guys. It's a code Bitcoin News. You can just check it out on planb.academy. You go on programs, Plan B program. You put in Bitcoin News, and you should have a rich discount. We also have scholarships, but the process for scholarship, I think, is closed by now. We reviewed a few applications in the months of November and December. But yeah, very excited to start. The past edition of our school had a lot of very cool teachers, like basically everybody from Elizabeth Stark to Adam Beck. We had Peter Todd and Luke Dashier and Adam Beck. So all the people that are fighting, they're still joining as mentors, and it's pretty cool.
And so what kind of people should apply? Of course, they got to be into Bitcoin, but how much background do they have to have in Bitcoin itself?
Surprisingly, the target is not really for hardcore Bitcoiners. I think that Plan B Academy and Plan B Network are offering a lot of stuff to Bitcoiners through all the free open source education. But these specific live courses are targeted to not normies, because otherwise we will not be able to reach them, but like very fresh orange pill people. Typically, the target is somebody that already has professional skills, but not yet intensive Bitcoin ecosystem and industry knowledge. So, for example, you are a lawyer, you know Bitcoin, you like Bitcoin, you would like to help Bitcoiners with your services, but you don't know much about the interaction between Bitcoin and law, or you are a business developer, but you don't know exactly the business models on Bitcoin, or you are a good developer, but you don't know about the Bitcoin software ecosystem, the different SDK, the different languages. You don't know what is being written in Rust, in Python, in Scala, or whatever. So the idea is to turn a professional, somebody employable outside of the world of Bitcoin, into somebody employable inside Bitcoin. Right now, a typical Bitcoin company faces a dilemma. Let's say you have a Bitcoin company, you have to hire a marketer. You can either hire a very good professional marketer with lots of experience, but then you have to teach them Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin culture twists and idiosyncrasies, or you just employ a Bitcoiner, which would be a great guy because he is a Bitcoiner, but maybe he's not a professional, skilled, experienced marketer because he's just your Bitcoiner friend. Typically, this is a dilemma, and we are trying to improve this by bridging the two extremes.
Very cool. Yeah, we need to bridge that gap, right? And get more professionals into Bitcoin and more Bitcoiners into real roles in the world out there where they can help spread the word. So you guys are doing a great service for the community. And I think it's very important that people know that this service is out there and that they get to have experience with experts like you and Adam Beck and Peter Todd and Luke Dasher. It's a very, very cool program. And I hope you guys have great success in 2026. And so we are here today to discuss our newsletter. Bitcoin News Weekly comes out every morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, straight into your inbox. And then we break it down with a new guest each day, each Monday on a live stream. Today, we got Giacomo Zucco. Couldn't be more happy about that. But this edition is titled, Bitcoin Twitter is Dead. Long live Bitcoin Twitter. How a single Twitter post sparked a meltdown and exposed the algorithm. So, yes, this was quite the talk of the Bitcoin community this weekend. Were you observing this yourself, Giacomo, or were you actually going out in the real world and doing actual things?
No, I was, even if I work a lot, I still waste a lot of my time on Twitter, of course. And actually, I noticed, like many other Bitcoiners, I noticed a degradation on reach and interaction in the last few months. But also, I made a mistake to comment political events from the US the Minnesota situation, and I noticed how incredible the reach was for those kind of comments. So when I randomly stepped back into normie politics, which is something I shouldn't do for my own productivity, I started to receive comments from people that I don't even know, either agree with me or insulting me, which is cool because it's the reason I should post on Twitter. But it's surprising because with Bitcoin content, that's basically doesn't happen anymore. You usually have comments by the same very small niche of people. So that something was going on was clear. Now the specific screenshot from the product of X has been put into doubt, maybe the authenticity of the specific screenshot. I don't know. It's been discussed right now, but it's clear that something like that is going on. And from the reaction of X representatives that you described, it's clear that they have something to justify. So something is happening in this regard. I think it's very interesting because on one side, every time there is some kind, so Bitcoin is anti-fragile. The Bitcoin community is anti-fragile as well, especially and also on social media. And every time there was any kind of bad situation in social medias or X specifically, people that helped steering a new wave of innovation in Bitcoin. You mentioned Nostr, but even before Nostr, there was the moment in which we all went into Rodolfo Novak's Mastodon instance for a while. It didn't survive long, but it was a catalyst for us to try. It's basically a reminder, like, remember that you are not free in this platform, that even if in Bitcoin you're free, Bitcoin is always open to everybody 24/7. This is not the same for privately hosted services that can just shut you down or reduce your reach, shadow ban you. So it's a useful reminder so we can experiment with alternatives. The Mastodon alternatives was short-lived for many, many reasons. Then there was the experiment by Jack Dorsey of, you remember, the Web 5 idea with a TBD company that's also somehow is connected with the Blue Sky launch for the liberal Twitter. And then there was finally Nostr, which is a strong phenomenon today still. I'm a little bit skeptical about the technology, the scalability of the technology, but I don't care much because I think that what is important is not the way Nostr works right now. It's the movement, the brand, the idea that we should decentralize something like X and the continuing remembering that we have to do that sooner than later, because when we are already completely cut out, it's too late.
And so you've been in Bitcoin for over a decade now. How long have you been in Bitcoin Twitter?
I think that fairly. So I started to follow Bitcoin intensively as a main occupation in May 2013. And by then I was already on Bitcoin Twitter, mostly tweeting in Italian though, because I was still not very confident to go international, even if you may be surprised by my current Oxfordian accent. I was reading in English because of my university studies in physics, but I was never speaking English. And English education in Italy, like in Spain, in France, is pretty bad. So people typically from a normal education, they are not good English speakers. So I was shy interacting with the global movement, but I had my very niche. If I search for my 2013 Bitcoin comments on Twitter now, I will find mostly Italian stuff, but it's still nice to look at. And then I think when I started to organize the third iteration of the Scaling Bitcoin conference in 2016, that was the moment in which I had to MC the entire conference in English. I had to start tweeting out the content, and probably by 2016 I was actively participating to the global Twitter Bitcoin Twitter. Back then there still was a lot of activity in Reddit, and I was writing and lurking in Reddit with a few accounts. And I just disclosed that I had sock puppets, and I was still active in Bitcoin Talk. Bitcoin Talk had a very strong Italian community, funded by a guy who interacted with Bitcoin, with Satoshi himself. Italian was the first language that the Bitcoin client was translated in after English, thanks to this OSFAT guy. And so we had a strong community in Bitcoin Talk in Italian speaking, but I also had a few accounts in Bitcoin Talk. I think that the general interaction with all these media started to strongly converge into Twitter, I would say by 2019, 2020.
And so what would you say was the golden era of Bitcoin Twitter?
I think that, yeah, I think that probably I think that the bull run of
Yeah,
2021 was most likely the peak of Bitcoin Twitter civilization.
it was
Uh,
awesome. It
yeah,
was really awesome. Yeah, and it's that's what really onboarded me. To be honest, I found out about Bitcoin in 2015, 16, got some, but didn't really learn as I needed to until 2020. And Twitter was so instrumental in that, right? I mean,
yeah.
between the memes and the videos and the articles, I mean, everything was just so on point, and it really felt like a movement. And we've discussed this before on the podcast, but I really think that Bitcoin being anti-fragile, it sort of really shows its strength when it's under attack, right? In between COVID, the lockdowns, the money printing, there was another catalyst that was sort of on the scale of the great financial crisis of Occupy Wall Street that really allowed the community to band together, and we had this home on Twitter at the time, and it allowed us to amplify our message. And so, just in terms of you looking back on the last decade plus, I mean, how instrumental is social media, specifically Twitter X, in the Bitcoin movement itself? Would Bitcoin be just fine if just Bitcoin Twitter disappeared tomorrow?
Well, maybe tomorrow we could easily survive, but it was definitely instrumental at the beginning because even if Bitcoin is a tool, and some people like to reduce its essence to a tool, but tools can change the world, especially when they match with a tool-related subculture. There was a very good in Baltic on Badger Riga. There was a very good talk you can probably find on YouTube still by CoinSure about the fact that Bitcoin is a subculture like early rockers, like surfers. Now, a surfboard is just a tool. It's not a culture. There's nothing in a surfboard which is about having some kind of clothes or waking up very early or doing something, some relationship with nature. It's just a board, a floating board. But there is an entire subculture connected with that object. Same goes with a skate, like a skateboard. If you are a skater or a motorcycle, everybody uses a motorcycle. Not everybody is a biker. To be a biker is to be connected to some specific subculture, which is the same with the electric rock guitar. Everybody listen to rock music. Not everybody is a rocker in a specific sense. So everybody will end up using Bitcoin, including probably the government of North Korea, which is using it right now, including Wall Street guys, including statists and socialists and communists and Nazis, and including Keynesians. Everybody will eventually gravitate into Bitcoin's liquidity black hole, but that doesn't mean that everybody will become a Bitcoiner in the sense of the subculture. And I think that even if Twitter was not so influential to the development of the technical tool, Bitcoin itself, it was, and it still is instrumental to create the specific subculture that will push and steer the tool in some direction. And this is important because the direction of the technical development can be influenced by the subculture. If Austrian economic values and cypherpunk values are still present in the subculture, they can also inform and steer the development. That said, the debate about social media is also creating, as I said, Nostr, which is not just used as a social media tool, but now you have a coordination of job market on Nostr. You have an attempt to recreate e-commerce, decentralized e-commerce like the Silk Road on Nostr. You have an attempt to create many things using Nostr as a base. There are people trying to replace any URL with a Nostr communication. So there is a lot of stuff going on also from a technical point of view. So yeah, I would say pretty important when they will write down the history of the money revolution. I think that social media platform should have a very respectable spot.
Yeah, this is a great comment. We just got tungsten cubes, carnivores, cast iron versus stainless, seed oil disrespecters, creed higher got faded. Bull market only after a pump it up song. So yeah, I mean, there are so many things that unite us as Bitcoiners that we share online that need to be repeated. You know, repetition is necessary to be banged into people's heads and to become a part of sort of who you are, right? Bitcoiners, we have a culture, and I think it's important that there is a place for it to live online. And we have been, as we've seen this weekend, we've been systematically throttled, and we'll see if our loudness this weekend is able to make any difference in terms of that. But another part of this is, of course, Bitcoin gets lumped in with crypto Twitter, and crypto Twitter is obviously, there's been no alt season, right? Alts are just been bleeding for 3 straight years against Bitcoin. These pump and dumps last year, 2024 was 2 years ago, was taken over by these meme coins that just bled people dry in terms of money. So it's there's, I think there is justifiable reason as to see why this sort of community has shrank a bit on Twitter, but in terms of Bitcoiners, we still need to be there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to add. The real problem we have with with Bitcoin Twitter is the association still with crypto Twitter. Even the alleged screenshot, if confirmed, was explicitly referencing crypto Twitter and the fact that they are just a bunch of attention-seeking scammers and stuff like that, and which is true. I mean, crypto Twitter is mostly spam and scam, and that's the reality. So the problem, the challenge we still have to this day is to really clarify the distinction between Bitcoin and crypto. Not just Bitcoin is not part of crypto, but crypto is the opposite of Bitcoin in many ways, and it is to some degree a immune reaction of the fiat world to Bitcoin. Whereas in Bitcoin you have scarcity, in crypto you have everybody printing their own money. Whereas in Bitcoin you have don't trust, in crypto you have celebrities asking them, just trust me, bro, and buy my money. And this, it's like crypto is fiat on steroids. And of course, any association with that kind of word is hurting Bitcoin, because people will react to the crypto scams in a reasonable way, which is just cutting them out.
100%. Well, while one door seems to be closing possibly on Bitcoin Twitter, another one opened up. Let's get to the newsletter. Rumble this week launched the Rumble wallet, a self-custodial wallet bringing Bitcoin, USDT, and Tether Gold to millions of users, expanding censorship-resistant payments across one of the world's largest creator platforms. So yeah, this is big news. It was announced last year, but finally got rolled out, and Rumble wants to take on the big boy, YouTube, right? And by creating a wallet for their creators where viewers can go and tip directly in Bitcoin to their favorite streamers, they are opening up a new era when it comes to the creator economy and the use of Bitcoin. I mean, this is one of the perfect examples of the use case for Bitcoin, right?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, we are very sympathetical to this from an ideological point of view. And also we have a business connection, because behind this move, there is also Tether. And Tether, as people probably know, is 50% of the sponsorship of Plan B, or the Plan B initiative so far. The other 50% is Fulgur Ventures, which is a very important VC company in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And Tether, of course, gave us a preview into these, and it's very interesting technically and as a business operation. Specifically, it's also interesting that they're using Bitcoin, of course. They're also using USDT. Clearly, it's the main product of Tether right now, and there's a lot of discussion among Bitcoiners, which is a legit discussion about USDT. Is that a fiat tool to survive and to compete and dilute Bitcoin, or is it a gateway drugs to Bitcoin? There's a lot of debate, and I'm very open-minded about that. But it's also interesting they're using Tether Gold. Now, I know Tether people closely. We work together, we're friends, and I love the way they try not to make stablecoin only a fiat thing and to push for Tether Gold. It's challenging because from the point of view of brand recognition, for payments, the dollar is still considered as a stable alternative, the US dollar. Not so with gold, which is just considered an investment thing or a store of value thing, but it could be used for payment as well. And so it's interesting to see their attempt to boost people into paying each other with gold credit based on the same blockchain technology. So that's very fine. We will use Rumble. We are using it already. If you go on Plan B Network, Plan B Academy, there are already tutorials and testing of this wallet and some analysis of the technology. And also, among the things we are doing with Plan B, there is we will be announced very briefly. It's the Cypher Tank. So a Shark Tank for Bitcoin companies. We already recorded everything. It was amazing. And we will publish the first episode on January 31st during the Plan B Forum in Salvador. And the episodes will be released on Rumble. I think we will mirror them on YouTube because discoverability and network effect in YouTube is still very strong. But from our from our different kind of channels, we will point to the Rumble video instead of the YouTube video. So we will also experiment with this feature. Personally, if I have to be critic and self-critic with my friends and be very honest, the only thing which is disappointed is the lack of lighting. Tether and especially Bitfinex was a very strong supporter of lighting. Bitfinex was the first exchange integrated lighting. There was a lot of money spent by Tether and Bitfinex, also on RGB and other lighting technologies. But right now there is no lighting integration, which I think should have come out on day one, because especially if you tip a creator, you will tip a small amount. So even if fees right now are very low, the lighting integration should happen yesterday, because as soon as feel will normalize again a little bit higher, it will be impossible to. We have been there already. Tipping on chain doesn't work, doesn't scale. They can fix it. Tether is talking, and Rumble, they are talking with both Spark, which is Light Spark is a very aggressive company in this space, and I like what they're doing with Spark, and Arc Labs, and I love what they're doing with Arc. So they're talking with both, and luckily they will integrate very soon both layer 2 with the WDK, the wallet development kit, which is what Rumble will use for the tips. So I'm positive, but I will need to keep pushing them into that direction.
Yeah, well, you got their ear, so they'll listen to you. They'll listen to the head of their school. So I think you're on the right path. Yeah, and when it comes to tipping, I mean, it needs to be fast too, right? It's not only fees; it needs to be quick. Like you need a tip for the thing that you just saw that you want to give the creator recognition for. So the fact that lightning happens instantaneously, I mean, that just makes all the sense in the world.
Yes.
2 questions. In terms of tethered gold, like is each token a weight of gold and it varies in price? That's how it works?
Yes. Right now they are trying to pushing a new weight unit, but it's a weight unit. It's convertible 1-to-1 to reserve on gold, full gold reserves, which are actually custodied here in Switzerland in a beautiful James Bond-like. Actually, James Bond's villains like Cabo. It's brilliant. It's very nice to see. And it's not so different from e-gold back in the 90s that people may remember. It was actually a precursor to Bitcoin. Some people think that Satoshi Nakamoto may have used e-gold to buy first Bitcoin.org. It's very likely that he did. So it's something similar to our history. The difference that, e-gold kept all the physical gold in the US, so it was eventually confiscated by the US government and never given back, while this one, Tether Gold, is in Switzerland, so some level of geopolitical protection more. The second difference, of course, is that eGold managed the full database of ownership, so they were in charge of the full market. So if they were requested by the regulator to censor, confiscate, shut down, change the distribution of property rights, they could do it from the database. While in Tether Gold, just like USDT, Tether will only care for the primary market, issuance and redeeming, and the secondary market is completely delegated to these kind of shitcoin layers and blockchains. So Tether company cannot directly, they can blacklist the redemption, but they cannot directly, they cannot take your USDT and move them unless the regulators will also go to Solana and Tron and whatever these 10,000 shitcoin layers are, which is an, I'm against shitcoins, of course, and I hope that Tether can move to RGB and Liquid and Arc and Spark. But the good thing about being on so many layers that the secondary market is probably not controllable by the Tether company. So the government cannot say that. The main challenge on Tether Gold, one of the reasons they cannot entirely move everybody there, is mostly that the business model is not as good. In USDT, the business model is just buying T-bills, and as long as the interest rate don't change, that's the business model of Tether. With gold, you don't have interests. You actually have expenses in gold custody. And if the market will take some gold and will never come back to redeem, you keep paying the expenses forever. So in order to make it sustainable or even let alone profitable, you will need some kind of strange tricks like a demurrage in which the user will see the amount of gold reducing over time. But this is not trivial stuff. It's not happening now because now Tether is rich enough not to care. But eventually, if this Tether gold was going to become something in general, something particularly mainstream, which is what the Tether head are thinking about, it will probably need some kind of very innovative business model as well.
Interesting. Yes, many layers when dealing with gold and tokenization and making sure people get what they pay for, right? So next, I'd like to hop over to the regulation section. I know you are a libertarian, you're not a fan of the state, and we've got a story out of France here that I think would make your blood boil, right? A French tax agent was arrested for allegedly leaking crypto investors' personal data from government tax databases to unknown clients, with the breach reportedly linked to a wave of armed home invasions. So yes, France just came out. They are hoping to create a list. They want you to report all of your crypto holdings, your Bitcoin, even if you didn't sell, right? They want to know how much exactly you have every single year. They want you to report into the main offices. Even though we just had a case like this come out this year, tax agent was targeting prison guards and cryptocurrency investors for a mysterious client. A tax office employee in Bobigny used tax software to track down a prison guard who was subsequently attacked at his home by 3 armed men. Her investigations also targeted cryptocurrency specialists and more. So, yes, we have tax agents selling out Bitcoin holders over here. And France has been known for a wave of $5 wrench attacks, right? It is the most violent place in terms of being a Bitcoin holder in the world. You are not far from France over there in Lugano. What is going on here? Why is France such a horrible place for $5 wrench attacks?
Well, that's very interesting. France is one of the countries where Bitcoin and crypto businesses has not been shut down by the government. To some degree, has been even subsidized and promoted. There are some once very great companies like Ledger, now not so much loved by Bitcoiners, but I was there when Ledger was early and was a very cool company. And there are some cool companies like now, like a Sank or others. So it's a place with a lot of company, a lot of investment going on, but also everything was already since a very long time regulated through KYC, AML functions. And as many Bitcoiners will say, and I think they are absolutely correct, KYC is the dangerous, irresponsible activity putting owners and traders in grave danger. They used to say that KYC means kidnap your children, and that's literally true. So if you have an attacker, the attacker can access to a list, and the list is ranking people by ownership of Bitcoin, which is an asset, which is a bearer instrument. So it's very easy to use for ransoms and stuff like that. That's the other side of the beauty of Bitcoin. Unstoppable money also means good for ransoms, and must be good for ransom because hard dark money is. And so there is Bitcoin owners listed by ownership with their home address, which is also verified by recent bills. So you also have the guarantee that they are there. You also have the name of their energy providers. You have their documents with their face. You have everything you need to perfect your attack. To select your attack priority, you can have a very handy list of targets with the perfect kind of hierarchy. And you have all the information you need to do social engineering attacks against them. People may think that kidnappings may be extreme, maybe not. I mean, I'm not rich enough to be worth the kidnapping. Okay, but consider that kidnapping is just the most extreme case of a list of attacks. You start from phishing attack. If you want to do phishing attack, you can do that towards everybody. Maybe you will have a conversion rate, or you can be smarter. You buy a KYC list from a corrupt tax officer, and then you can do phishing attack, which is targeted to specific names and home addresses with the snail mail directly delivered with fake hardware wallet and whatever. So you can have phishing. You can have fake blackmailing, like if you don't pay this Bitcoin address, I will come to kidnap your children. Now, maybe they don't want to do it because they don't want to risk such an operation. You are not worth enough, but you're worth enough to just try to scare you into doing it. And maybe you pay because you're scared. There are a lot of fake blackmail operation going on. And in order to do all of these, if you have this kidnap your children list, you are facilitated as an attacker. And of course, you may think it's very rare that they can get their hands, but this is just a single example of something that we know happen routinely over the dark web. Imagine this. Ledger company, we may discuss something similar later, but Ledger company had already a couple of leaks of all their customers, and that brought to a wave of phishing attacks. Now imagine that instead of one company marketing department, Ledger, now you have the exchange, the chain analysis company that the exchange will basically dump all the data to, the tax agency of that country, the tax agencies of all that country that made an information sharing agreement with that country, and then the US, which has information sharing agreement with everybody. So by a couple of weeks and months, probably thousands of different people will have access to your data inside KYC list. That's why doing KYC is not just an ideological failure because Bitcoin is supposed to be. No, it's a practical risk for your safety. Don't do KYC. Stay away from KYC.
Amen. And just look at this, a post that said the real reason why NFT Paris, which is supposed to happen this month, was canceled. A list going back from January 1st, 2025, a year ago, a father of crypto influencer kidnapped and held hostage. January 21st last year, a co-founder of Ledger and his partner kidnapped and held hostage, right? And look how long this list is of just things that happened in France. Absolutely wild. They're really, this is an epidemic going on over in the former state of Gaul. So yes, protect yourself. If you're going to buy a hardware wallet, as we just saw here, I mean, Ledger confirms a data breach of third-party payment processor Global E, exposing customers' names, addresses, and more. So, I mean, and then we just put together a list last week of all the data breaches since 2020 that Ledger has done, right? So when you buy a hardware wallet, best to do it with cash, right? In person at a conference per se, or actually BitKey now has a system where you can buy with cash at places, and they'll have pickup spots where you can go and pick up the device itself, so it doesn't get sent to your house and there's no data saved in that regard. So be careful out there. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks straight. The problem that is KYC and the amount of crimes that it can lead to. So there are ways to get around that, and I know Giacomo is an expert in doing so. Cool. Let's hop over to the market section, and we posted a video this week about Raoul Pal. And of course, Raoul Pal, he's well known for all of his crypto scams that he promotes and whatnot. But I do think that he has some insights when it comes to markets, as he's been at Goldman Sachs for decades and knows what's going on. But he gave a plausible reason as to why Bitcoin seems to be slammed every morning when the American markets wake up, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. He says that Bitcoin's repeated sell-offs at market opens stem from exchanges absorbing the October 10th flash crash liquidations and are now unwinding those positions like a daily chromatic desk. So yes, Giacomo, were you watching the markets on October 10th when they flash crashed and had that very odd day? And talk about the market performance since then. Why are we at $90,000 when everything seems as if it should be just straight green for Bitcoin?
I was not watching it live because I try to stay sane. So I don't trade. I just buy and hold. So I don't care for the short-term price. But of course, in a few hours, everybody around me was getting crazy. And some people here in Proof of Work space in Lugano also work with trading. So I've seen a little bit of strange faces around. So I had to understand what was happening. And it was weird. And this hypothesis is not completely illogic. I'm still skeptical, though, for one reason. I don't want to speak authoritatively here because literally I know nothing about trading. I'm not a trading guy. I'm not a price guy. So I just make educated guesses. And my educated guess is that maybe, just maybe, the strength of the internal cyclic dynamics in Bitcoin, which is made by the cyclic supply shock that drives some kind of hype. Then the hype creates a bubble. The bubble is bigger than the bubble before. but because there is a new cohort of investors that will replicate the same psychology of the previous cohort of investor. So they will be attracted by exuberance, then they will go to a peak, then they will see that the peak is there and is not going elsewhere, and so they will panic. And the late comers are panicking pretty soon, while people staying there since the previous cycle, the demographic of the previous expansion cycle, they are now wiser after one full cycle, so they will resist. So the bottom of the new bear market tends to be very close to the top of the previous bull market. This dynamic is not numerology, is not a law of nature, so it can break, cannot repeat. But if we take this cyclic idea seriously, that means that what we have witnessed is just yet another Bitcoin cycle. The number of days between one top and the other will be consistent. Of course, it's not a rule, again, it's not physics, it's not deterministic, but it will be consistent. It will just mean that the cycle was very small compared to previous ones, that the difference in liquidity between the 2021 cohort and the 2025 cohort was small, which is not so crazy if you think about diminishing returns of something like a power law, something like that. I know there is a power law guy, which I like a lot. He's a physicist like me. So I think this is rational, at least, to think that maybe we just had our bull market, and the difference between the tops was, it has been from $30 to $620, from $620 to $1,200, from $1,200 to $19,000, from $19,000 to $69,000, and now just to 127, whatever it was, $1,000. That just means that there are diminishing returns of every increase, which may be disappointed for people that wanted the Godzilla Omega candle soon, but it's still pretty promising because in the long term you still have this kind of this cycle has to break eventually, but so far is basically following this. If you take the bubbles and the cycles away, Bitcoin is basically going since day zero very close to a 6 power of time. So like you take time, 6 power, and that's the price of Bitcoin. It's going there. It's like that. It's not exponential. It's not like that. It's just like that. It requires a little bit more of low time preference, but be patient. Keep stacking. That's also good news, because if it goes up too much, people that are not yet whole coiners will never get there. You still have an opportunity in your lifetime to get a full whole Bitcoin, which is an amazing opportunity, historically speaking. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Do you think if we hit a new all-time high this year, the cycle theory would be dead?
It will not be necessarily that. I think if we hit another all-time high in a long time from this very moment, the cycle theory has to be stretched so much to be arbitrary. So if you take a theory or a model and you stretch so much to adapt to reality, you just may as well throw it away. So the cycle means that in kind of equal time periods, you should see kind of equal dynamics. If it happens tomorrow, if tomorrow we go back to 100, and then in 3 days we go to 130, and then in 1 week we go to 160 or 200,000, and then we crash again harder. I would say that's still a cycle. It was just a little bit longer, a little bit stranger with 3 tops, but it will still be compatible. If we see a new top, if we now stay on 90,000 for months, and then in June, in summer, which is unprecedented, we start to go back to the all-time high, and then we go from there to 300 over 3 months. That's such a distortion of the cycle model that I will just consider the cycle model not very effective anymore in describing reality.
I hear you. And you just heard Giacomo himself say you're still lucky to have the chance to get a whole coin. You have the opportunity within your lifetime. If Bitcoin doesn't go to $1 million tomorrow, you can still get your hands on a whole Bitcoin. And where do we recommend going to go do that? Our friends over at Rhino. Why? Because back in the day, getting access to Bitcoin financial services was slow, clunky, scattered across all these different platforms. Well, Rhino is changing that. Rhino is the next generation Bitcoin banking app designed to handle all of your Bitcoin needs in one place. Here's what you can do with it. Of course, you can buy Bitcoin at some of the lowest fees anywhere. That means more sats per dollar that you spend. Of course, make Lightning payments over the Lightning Network instantly with zero fees. And then, of course, you can also send cash globally, remittances. We've got family and friends around the world who need fiat currency. You can send them over Bitcoin rails very, very cheaply. And of course, you can DCA, set up automatic savings so you can stack on your schedule at a certain percentage, whatever you want, so you can build your wealth over time. And this is just the beginning. Soon, Rhino will let you pay bills. You can direct deposit, have your paycheck go directly into Rhino. You can soon be able to borrow against your Bitcoin and even save for retirement all in the same app. And of course, with Rhino, security is the top priority. So they protect your Bitcoin with biometric verification, 24/7 fraud protection, and the confidence of knowing your Bitcoin will never, ever be rehypothecated. And of course, if you can withdraw to cold storage, and if you got a multi-sig with Casa, you can use Rhino as one of your keys in the multi-sig. So go today to rhinobitcoin.com, download the app by tapping the link in the description below over on YouTube. And when you sign up, use the code Bitcoin News, one word Bitcoin News, and Rhino will drop you $10 in Bitcoin straight into your wallet. No questions asked. So yes, Rhino is built to help you keep control of your Bitcoin every minute of the day. They are close friends of the program. Highly recommend you go check them out. DM them over on Twitter. They're very friendly guys. They'll answer any questions you have. Rhino, rhinobitcoin.com. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. So, Giacomo, the other thing I want to talk to you today about is what's going on over in Uganda. Have you heard about this story?
I heard about the story. I think it also nicely connected with what we discussed presently about Twitter shadow banning and Nostr, because here there is a similar story connected now to, for example, BitChat. So another thing sponsored by Shield by Jack Dorsey, which is originally a Bitcoin thing, which is now going mainstream, because even people that don't understand or need or understand they need Bitcoin yet, they immediately understand they need BitChat. Now, BitChat is nothing. I think BitChat is nothing extraordinary per se, because it's like we had a lot of attempts to do mesh network among cell phones and many other projects. But this is something created by a Bitcoiner, Kalle, the same creator of Cashew, which was promoted by Jack Dorsey and is now reaching some kind of mainstream recognition, which was actually helped by the officials of Uganda, because they went on camera to say, don't download BitChat, this is very bad and we know how to stop it. So it was like the best kind of promotion. I think it's very interesting to see. So the Uganda situation is tense, as far as I understand. It's an electoral kind of disputation. There was the government cracking down some protests, and there is internet under control and under scrutiny and possibly under shutdown. And so BitChat is being used a lot. But a very interesting thing would be to see a connection between that and the current Iranian situation. Iran created the internet infrastructure that was heavily easy to interrupt. They actually had a lot of Chinese help in doing that. And now they are shutting it down under the protests. So it will be interesting to see, like in Uganda, I don't know. Again, I don't want to speak authoritatively about stuff I'm not so close to, but I don't think the situation is the same level of tension. So Uganda is still something where the government doesn't want you to use the internet right now outside of the authorized channels that are heavily censored. People are downloading BitChat. They are trying to stop it. People are still doing it. Strays and effect, which is very nice to see. Iran, maybe thousands of people shot dead by the police. So the situation is really serious right now. So it will be, and internet is completely down, completely in the dark. So I think that just like we discussed at social media, this is another topic in which Bitcoin fixes the money, but then we realize that in order to use Bitcoin, we need the internet, we need communication, we need social media, we need the infrastructure itself. So in a way, Bitcoin is grown out of the internet, but now is growing so much that it's going back to fix the dependencies it depends on. So it's like this kind of, it's like Bitcoin is on top of legacy stuff, which were becoming very centralized, and now is going back to fix its own foundation by creating internet infrastructure. Right now, I want to shield stuff from Tether, my friends at Tether. So this is an old punch shirt. They are working. This app kit is still closed source, so it's not yet a valid alternative to BitChat. But they're working very hard on something which is to some degree a competitor of BitChat, and is based on this peers.com technological stack, which is very cool, and will also interact with Bitcoin very heavily with the WDK. So you can build your own BitChat alternative. One thing, so let me try to, I'm friend with Kalle, we fight on Twitter all the time, but let me try to be a little bit critical here. One of the problems of these kind of Jack Dorsey hypes, in my opinion, is that it takes this kind of vibe coded things that are very cool ideologically. They just work immediately. They are compromises that can get the job done immediately. In a way, Nostr was the same. While people were losing sleep into thinking about Web 5, TBD, or a secure butterscotch, or this kind of very crazy stuff, Fiat Jav created something very simple, but to some degree very tendent to centralization, which was Nostr. And Jack Dorsey pushed money and hype, and that became a thing among Bitcoiners and even normies. That's cool, but the problem is that Nostr doesn't scale. Something similar with BitChat. It's a very nice and very useful vibe coded app done very quickly and promoted very quickly, but it may not be enough to replace the infrastructure. What we need, I think that I spoke about a bridge before, like professionals and Bitcoiners. I think we need some other bridge between the Uber nerds and the vibe coders. Not the Fiat Jav was a vibe coder; it was not invented yet. But you have two classes of engineers. Some engineers like a quick and dirty solution that will just work, and they ship, like Fiat Jav and Kalle. We have other people in Bitcoin like that, like Super Tester. There are people that will produce a lot of cool stuff, and then sometimes Jack Dorsey will just pick one and say, "This is the shit," and then it will go mainstream. This is cool, but it cannot really scale and stand the proof of time because it's usually the foundations are weak. On the other side of the equation, you have the Uber nerds, like people working maybe for Blockstream research or some core developers. They will say, no, don't use LNURL because we must use Bol 12, and then they will never deliver Bol 12 for 10 years. And then they will, the other guys, right? And they will criticize that the quick and dirty solution, but the perfect solution will never hit the market because you keep theorizing, you keep improving it, you keep thinking about that forever, and it never arrives. So I think that one critical thing that the current situation in Uganda and Iran and on Twitter will force us to do will be to try to get this stuff together by adopting stuff which just work and improving it until it gets to the state which is consistent with the best we can achieve that can withstand the proof of time.
Yes, absolutely. So to give a little color about this Uganda situation, actually I can play a video while I talk about it that we made this week. So yes, the situation in Uganda is that there's this strongman who's been in power for 40 years, Museveni, this guy right here. And so every election, they run it 5 years. The last two elections, they shut down the internet for 5 days, right? So the opposition had no chance to coordinate. They have these fake elections, no internet. So he just won in a landslide, right? So this year, they've got Bobby Wine, who's a former pop artist, who's coming out and say, hey guys, we've got a solution, and it's BitChat. You don't need the internet. You guys can use your cell phones. It's device-to-device communication. They've shut down Starlink. They're stopping the imports of the Starlink devices, and they've actually restricted access there. But BitChat, you can just have the two phones talk directly to each other if they're within close enough distance. So my question for you, Giacomo, is you think that the problem here is that it can't scale because the distance isn't great enough, or what's the real problem why BitChat is not a solution? Because we have seen it work in places like Nepal already, where they had a revolution and it was successful partially because of BitChat.
No, I just think that it's not like it cannot scale in terms of like let's take Nostr. Nostr is working. That's clear. It is working, but it is working on top of the current internet. So it's using web and JSON and this kind of internet stuff. And if you block the internet now, you cannot use Nostr either. And if you want to do machine-to-machine communication, you are forced to go through JSON communication, which is not efficient. The signature of the messages, even the private messages, were very bad. So now you have stuff like white noise, which is trying to fix the communication, the encryption communication part. And BitChat to some degree is similar. I did play around a little bit, but right now BitChat is for example, is not trivial to integrate with other mesh network with different kind of communication. I've seen that right now there's something going with LoRa, so there is some level of integration, but it was quick and dirty. It was created in a way which is not. We may have a problem of over promising. If people will download BitChat now because they are out of the internet and they will try to open it and think that now they have internet, this is just a chat that works if you have a dense enough population using it, if you're close enough to the next one. So I think my caveat is one of expectation management. If the internet is down, just having BitChat is not the solution yet. We need something which is way more flexible, way more integrated with other solution. We need to reinvent the internet from scratch, which is hard. So we should be appreciative and supportive of this stuff. We should just be aware not to overpromise, because people will get expectation and then they will face reality, which is still very challenging. Right now, especially, I was thinking that the main limitation for what I can think of BitChat is twofold. One is distribution channels. If you don't have the internet, you cannot get BitChat trivially, which seems like an obvious thing, but it's a real challenge. Right now in Uganda, there is this closed source alternative which is circulating, which of course may be spyware by the government because it's closed source, you don't know, or maybe just a scam because it's also paid. So there is this distribution channel problem which can be fixed by basically these networks of USB keys, but it's pretty complex. And then you can have self-bootstrapping of this app. The second problem is that you have Bluetooth only. Instead, you should probably have a combination between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a very, very widespread kind of network, and having something that can create mesh networks using Wi-Fi routers would be very, very, it could be even more effective, especially in countries where there are some kind of Wi-Fi routers. So yeah, I think it's still very early. We should be cautious about not to call it a done deal. Let's see how it does in Uganda. Let's see if it gets some level of spread in Iran. The other problem is the bootstrapping problem of the density of the device is so hard that the only way to make it, as you say, it does work, but it does work because a global celebrity, Jack Dorsey, and a local celebrity pushed that before the internet went down. So enough people were on board already. It's not something that if you are right now in Iran and you are alone and you want to access the internet, you will start BitChat and it will be probably empty. Yeah. You need bootstrapping, which is challenging. We can pull it off as Bitcoiners. I think it should be a priority. I think that so much of the Bitcoin conferences should be dedicated to mesh networks going forward. And I will try to make my part.
Very cool. And we're almost out of time here, but I want you to look forward in 2026 and tell us what tech project are you most excited about for Bitcoin?
So one is definitely this, like fixing the internet that we just mentioned it. So hole punch, Nostr, and BitChat and all white noise and all this stuff, fixing communication and fixing the internet infrastructure and social media and so on. The second one, I think is connected, is also fixing identity. So in order for this stuff to work, we also need very good protocols of identity management, which doesn't mean government identity or KYC, which, as I explained, I'm not very sympathetic with. I'm talking about pseudonymous identity and like names and case-based identity to interact with one source. The world is going towards digital ID, which is bad, and we need to not just stay away from that. We need to create a scalable, decentralized, sovereign alternative. To some degree, the nerds in the past decades, they already did GPG key signing parties and webs of trust, but that was a super nerd technology that people were not ready to adopt. Now with Bitcoin, you have a different word, because back then only a PGP nerd would use a key. Now a Bitcoiner must learn to use a key in order not to lose their money. So there is an economic incentive to learn this stuff. So now you have to make it easier to access. Stuff like Nostr connector are in that direction. There is a startup that I also invested in by my friend Alex Portal, trying to do this kind of global identity system. And I think Kit people are also trying to do Kit identity and stuff like that. So that's the second. The third one is finishing the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network was a brilliant idea, in my opinion, but we also, in that case, we also overpromised a little bit, because even if it does work, it only does work in a pretty centralized or semi-centralized way with a very big LSP like a SANC, which is cool. The problem is that we should own it. We should be aware and analyze what happens in one of these, if one of these big nodes gets shut down, what is the exit cost and stuff like that. And also when fees are high, the Lightning Network experience tends to degenerate a lot, because you have foreclosures, you have this kind of very expensive channel closures. It's very expensive to onboard new users. So there are solutions to this, because the Lightning Network itself is not one single layer. It is a network of hoops among different channels that are, each different channel is a different layer between me and you, between you and the other. So the Lightning Network is a swapping protocol among this stuff, which already is evident when you look at Cashew that will, or Fedi that will pay over the Lightning Network with the Xiaomi Mint, or if you use Aqua that will just swap to Liquid and outside of Liquid, because it's just a swap between two different local security models. Something similar happened with arcade.money. If you want to try arcade.money, that's ARC based wallet, which will just be Lightning, and you swap in and you swap out from Lightning with ARC. Something similar can happen with Spark or Merkle layer. And so I think that going forward, I'm very excited about the new Lightning Network. Of all of these layers inside the new Lightning Network, that are all part of the Lightning Network, I'm especially bullish on ARC for one reason. I find it very complementary to the Driapool Lightning channel that we are used to, because I don't want to go too technical or too nerd sniped on this, but it is that on a Lightning channel, on a typical Driapool Lightning channel, me and you will just batch transactions over time. So we will create a channel now, and if we keep it open for 2 years, we will batch in 2 single transactions, opening and closing, all the economic activity going on in 2 years. The ARCs are the other way around. Instead of batching across time, they batch across users. So ARC security needs a new block to come to become final. So we still need to wait for the next block, and every block we need the confirmation on chain. So we're not batching time, but with ARC, thousands of users can just use the same on-chain transaction to have finality. And I think if you combine these two primitives, each primitive has strong trade-offs, but combined together, the new Lightning Network can be so much better than the one we have now that is not even funny. And then going on, I think mining, I'm a strong supporter of Ocean and Datum, and of course also Stratum V2 that took a little bit more to hit the market, but now is out as well. So decentralizing mining as much as possible, which means mining pools with mining side block template creation. That's very, very cool. Non-custodial payout, so you can also avoid KYC mining, which is another very bad situation to have. And Lightning payout is something happening in Ocean which we're very excited about. And you may have in the future the new Lightning payout based on ARCs or Sparks or whatever. So that would be even cooler. So that's fine. Another project I invented this protocol called RGB back in 2018, and based on ideas of Peter Todd in 2016, and it stayed almost dormant for a while. It was recreated again as Taproot Assets, which is basically a reimplementation of the very same idea. So finally, RGB is live as well. I'm not involved anymore. but it's so cool to see that something that I created is finally being used. That I'm happy about that. I don't care much for tokens in general. So I'm in a paradoxical situation in which I invented the token protocol without believing in tokens. But I think that if you really need tokens, and one example of that would be Tether Gold or Tether dollars, if you do need it, instead of using Tron or Solana or whatever, Ethereum, at least if you use these protocols, you can strengthen Bitcoin while you do that. So even scammers, so if you have, you can have a scammer that will not interact with Bitcoin. That's fine. You can have a scammer that will also damage Bitcoin in the process, like ordinals and inscriptions, or you can have a scammer that will inadvertently help Bitcoin protocol privacy and liquidity, like RGB. So that's a reduction of harm, at least.
Beautiful. Well, that's a lot to be excited for. And I do think you're right that it would be so cool to see Lightning sort of take this leap this year with all these different aspects coming together and really forming this beautiful symphony that just really abstracts all the complexity out and just makes it as easy as using a credit card, right? For the average user who has no idea what's going on the back end. So lots of cool things going on. We have reached the end of our time here, but I've got a big month coming up because you got students to find and to teach starting February. So share, everybody. I put the link in the comments right here, planb.network. Go check that out and just, tell people why they should go do this. Go and check out the website and sign up.
So from planbnetwork.network, you can be redirected to the program, or you just go to planb.academy, which is specifically the academy part, and you sign up. You can also use the code Bitcoin News. And the reason to sign up is basically to try to enter a network of Bitcoin professionals that can actually work within the Bitcoin industry. As I said before, we need to bridge that. Maybe this is not for you. If it's not for you because you are Bitcoin competent enough, please take this link and take the promotion code and shield it to your normie friend, which is just pre-coiner. It's just, we will take care of orange pilling them, but we need professionals, we need coders, lawyers, graphic designers, biz developers, people that already has professional skill. If you're a student that are just, if you're just studying law or something, some of these things, you may apply, of course, as well. Then, since you are already there, check out the Plan B forum in El Salvador. If you want to come, it will be 31st of January. I will be there in a while. And on the second day, the 31st, this is not a promotion of something. So you have to pay the tuition for the course. You have to pay the ticket for the conference. This third thing is free. Just watch the first episode of the Cypher Tank. It's a super cool thing that I'm very proud of. I'm looking forward to it being published, because I think we can really, I think that also can bridge better than is being done today, the world of VC and angel capital and open source grants to the actual Bitcoin industry. And I'm very proud to have participated into an attempt. So 31st, first episode of the Cypher Tank. You will find it on planb.network as well. And look, check it out. And if you like it, share it. And hopefully next year we can make it with even more money and more projects. And I think it would be very cool.
Well, Giacomo, it's been an absolute pleasure. We could talk for hours. There were so many other headlines we could have touched, but I think we got the big ones. And I love your input on the Bitcoin Twitter, of course, what the limitations of things that are like BitChat and the things you're excited for. So much great knowledge here. Really appreciate you coming on. Go sign up, people. planb.network. If you're a professional, you need some little Bitcoin training, and then you can become an orange pill evangelist, just like this man right here. So, Giacomo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Speak soon.
Bye-bye.